Tulavena Mayaladam Buddha Putta Namamahang Silavantam Gunavantam Punya Ketang Anuttaran Tulavena Mayaladam Buddha Putta Namamahang Silavantam Gunavantam Punya Ketang Anuttaran Tulavena Mayaladam Buddha Putta Namamahang.
With that, you respected all monastics, not even one monk. You respected all the arahants who were living at the Buddha's time, even now, even for the future. Monks, nuns, and all the monastics. Okay, now we moving on to respecting parents. So please approach your parents. Okay, mother. Dasamasi ure katva posesi buddhi karanang ayudigang vassa satang matupadang namamahang. Dasamasayak duk vinda ma hedu amme le kiri karapuwa ma dedikala amme නිවසේ බුදුන් යැයි බුදු හිමිදසු අම්මේ ඔබ පායුග වඳිමි අමා ආදර අම්මේ. Father, බුද්ධිකාරෝ අලිංගින්වා චුම්බිත්වා පිය පුත්තකං රාජමච්ඡං සුපතින්තං පීතුපාදං නමාමහං. නැති බැරි කමක් මට නොදැනෙන නියායෙනි දුක් කරදර මැදින් මා හැඳු දයාවෙනි. හොඳ දරුවෙකු වෙන්න මට දුන් ඔවා මිනි ඔබ පායුග වඳිමි මා ආදර පියාණෙනි. Mike, your mom will be there anytime soon, right?
That's the expectation. That is the expectation. Yeah, that's the plan.
Just an expectation?
That yes, we're planning on we're moving some stuff around, making space right now.
Oh, okay. Still at the level of planning.
Yeah. Well, right now there are certain restrictions in place in Ontario and British Columbia that prevent anything from happening. Right. I think BC right now they have a rule that you can't leave your own neighborhood wherever you are. So if you don't live in the neighborhood of the airport, I guess you can't go anywhere. And here we have the stay-at-home order. So once things start to calm down a bit, maybe we'll take some action.
Great. Okay, so Dhamma school song. So please rise and then sing the Dhamma school song together. Okay, and we miss one part, so we're gonna bless all of you. Abhivadana Silisse Nichang Vadha Prachayino Chattaro Dhamma Vadhanti Ayuvanno Sukhang Balang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Me Vicha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminati Saminchatu. Just to note one thing, I think some of your cameras are not clear, I guess. I don't I don't know what's going on. Few of you, it's very dark, I think. Like a couple
I
of
think
you.
a few people just have their backs to the light.
Yeah,
I think
probably
that's what's
the
going on.
brightness or something. Yeah, so your teacher can see very well. Probably it's like dark. Yeah. Ovindu, Ovini, Delop, their cameras are really good.
Okay, thank you.
Naomi is good too.
I'm going
Dilip
to
is preparing the background.
create a breakout room as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
And in there. Okay, opening a break room for the junior class. There we go.
Mike, we need to encourage Ovindu and Ovini for coming today at a time,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yes.
let you know about what happened to them. So
how are you doing? Are you coping all right? How is everything for you?
Yeah, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, we're with our cousins, so they talk to us and stuff, making us feel better.
Okay, all right. I hope that I heard that it was like a pretty much a brand new place, right?
Yeah.
Only 5 months
Yeah.
that we moved in.
That's unfortunate. Sorry to hear that. I guess I hope you didn't lose anything that was like irreplaceable. Were you able to get important things out?
Yeah, we got back like a lot of photos, stuff like that.
Okay, well that's good, and hopefully you'll be back to normal in no time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good on you for coming anyway. Okay. Well, this time we'll be turning our attention, fortunately, to nice things, to happier, brighter things. We're going to be talking about the higher realms. So fortunately, we've moved past the realms. We don't have to think about horrible things as horrible things are happening. And we're starting on page 605 of the textbook. And there's the link. Yep.
I had a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to hand in our projects today, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. I was a little confused on the emails.
Yep.
I think I have yours, Mike, but I don't think I have the Temple's email.
Temple email is on the website, I think. You should be able to find it on the contact page website. So
we can send it by a private chat to Dilip.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to check to see if it is actually on the website because
it should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, here it is in the
monastery
chat.
with a map, actually. See here. Ottawa Buddhist Monastery at gmail.com.
Yep, yeah, I just put it in the chat so you can send it there, and you can send it to me too, and then we'll definitely get it. Okay, good. So yeah, you can send that as long as you have sent that, by the end of the session, by 4 o'clock today, I think we're fine. I've already received one. I haven't looked at the temple email in the last little while, but I personally got Naomi handed hers in. Actually, I think it was a couple days ago. So I think should all be good. Today we're going to be talking about Brahmas. Chapter 6, that's page 605. Section 361, the Rupa Bhumi, plane of form. So we talk about Brahmas in the plural, which is kind of weird. While you're finding the page, there's some commentary. Brahma as like a plural thing, but originally at the time of the Buddha, I think this is a kind of an original idea, the idea that there's more than one Brahma, because a Brahma was kind of like a capital G god. At the time of the Buddha, the way that Indian society viewed Brahma was as being the big daddy of gods, the creator of the universe, the progenitor of all beings, this omnipotent, omniscient being in charge of everybody. And the Buddha rejected this idea, rejected the idea of this existence, but he didn't reject the idea that a being called Brahma exists. And so we have this kind of transformation of the idea of what a Brahma is, but not the negation of the concept entirely. It's a kind of a different approach to it than we might see in the West. And like when Western philosophers kind of reject an idea, they like to just annihilate it. Buddhism likes to kind of find room for it and put it in proper context. So without further ado, the first paragraph, let's see. Devika, why don't you read the first paragraph of page 605?
Sorry, Mike, just it's not loading for me that well. Just one second.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a different link for you. We have, maybe it's in here. There it is. I'm just going to grab it from the original website.
Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Here.
No, it's okay. We need to make sure that everybody has the textbook. You can get a copy of it here.
Yeah, I got it here, right here.
Okay, good.
It's perfect. Sorry. Perfect. Brahmas 3.6. Okay. Everything we have considered so far, from the beings writhing in the agony of the Niraya, up to those enjoying the sublime pleasures of the celestial Deva realms, is included with the Kama Bhumi, the plane of sense desire. This is a realm of bewildering complexity, but all of the diverse beings who inhabit the various levels of the Kama Bhumi share an underlying psychological structure. They all relate to the world primarily through the 5 physical senses, and unless they have developed enough spiritual maturity to transcend their native sphere, they are primarily driven by the desire to experience pleasant sense objects and to avoid painful ones. For a being caught in this level of existence, the process of sensation, desire, gain, and loss, pleasure, and pain seem all encompassing. It is nearly impossible for such a being to even imagine a form of existence not dominated by the senses and the tyrannical desires.
Yes. So the author frames desire as like a tyrant, something that rules over us. So that is the vast majority of experience and beings. It's predominant. Overwhelmingly, beings belong in this in the category of the Kama Bhumi. Really, the other 2 realms that we're going to discuss, the Brahmas cover 2 other realms of existence, but they're a tiny minority. And so it seems sort of odd that they would comprise, like 66% of the realms are just these Brahma beings. But yeah, they're even though we talk about the threefold world or the trilokism or the Tiloka, the threefold world, that refers to the plane of sense desire, the plane of form, and the formless world, the plane of formlessness. And so one plane is all we've talked about so far, because almost everybody exists in this space, because sense desire is incredibly potent, is incredible. It has strong gravitation, so to speak. Okay, Naomi, why don't you read the next paragraph?
In the Buddhist cosmology, however, there are two higher levels of existence which, although still conditioned and part of samsara, have left subjugation by the senses behind. These are the Rupa Bhumi and the Arupa Bhumi, the planes of form and the formless. The Rupa Bhumi is the realm of the Brahmas, beings considered to be of a higher spiritual state than even the Devas. Devas are, in the most essential aspects, closer to human beings than the Brahmas. Like us, the Devas are sensual beings, a state of suffering that the Brahmas have transcended. It should be noted, however, that such transcendence is only temporary, as a Brahma can eventually be reborn back into the plane of sense desire.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so it's not irreversible. It's usually the product of certain things one does in a previous life that sends you there, like all births. And can anyone guess what it is that's like? Because obviously we know that if we do good deeds, we're more likely to be born as a human being or as a deva, according to the cosmology, and the opposite leads in the opposite direction. But there is a particular kind of activity that is essentially required in order to generate a birth in the Brahma world, as a Brahma. Does anybody know what that activity might be?
Generosity.
Generosity is a good start. Yeah, generosity is one activity that would be a supporting thing, but it is not the quintessential thing, because you could also just practice generosity and end up as a deva. There's an additional thing in addition to all the things you need to do to become a deva. There's one additional ingredient you need to add to your behaviors that will make you born as Brahma.
Mike, is it honesty?
No, although that is a prerequisite. It's not unique to Brahmas. Devas also, you should also practice honesty if you want to be reborn as a deva.
Is it a physical feature?
I'll give you a hint. We did it a little bit today already.
Meditation.
Is meditation. That's
Yeah.
right. So the practice of meditation, specifically the achievement of the different levels of jhana, or jhana means meditation. I think we may have discussed this a bit already, especially last year. But there's a lot of debate about what qualifies as jhana, but it's a specific state of tranquility in meditation when you can reach a certain level of peace in the practice of meditation. The repeated cultivation of that state is what heads in the direction of the Brahma world. And it's characterized by having, being able to apply your mind to the theme of meditation consistently while being genuinely peaceful and happy about it. Like when meditation becomes a pleasant activity, very peaceful, and you can reapply your mind to the theme of concentration, you're beginning to approach that or approximate the state of existence of a Brahma. So that kind of peaceful meditative experience is their experience of the world. Okay, let's see. Talk about their dwelling. Ovindu, tell us where they dwell.
Sure. The Brahmas dwell in celestial realms far above the sensual plane, in nested hierarchies of Brahmalokas, representing successively more refined levels of spiritual development, 16 levels in total. The word Brahma is derived from the Sanskrit root brr, to increase, to be great. It also occurs in compounds in the form of Brahma. In this form, it means sacred or divine. Words derived from Brahma and Brahma include Brahmana, the member of the priestly caste, Brahmacharya, the holy life, celibacy, and Brahma Vihara, divine abiding. Meditation.
Yeah, so the meditation on loving kindness is the first Brahma Vihara, or divine abiding. What are the other three Brahma Viharas? furious Googling going on, maybe. What are the other three? We did metta, which is or loving kindness, or maybe goodwill or friendliness is a good translation. That's the first. What are the other three? I can see the Googling fingers. So what's a vihara? Vihara is we use this word all the time also. It means like a temple or a place of living, right? So yeah, you got it?
Yeah, I got it from Google, but it's Maitri, Karuna, and Upeksha.
Yeah, so that's in Sanskrit. It's just given them to you in Sanskrit, not Pali, but those are correct. So metta or Maitri in Sanskrit is the first one. Karuna or compassion. It's like karuna is the wish that other beings experience happiness. So metta is this attitude of trying to it's a cultivating attitude toward them. Karuna is that you are developing this deeply inside you, like you're acting out of goodwill to them, like it's wanting to do good deeds for other beings. Mudita is the third one, and that is, it's like sympathetic joy. It's happiness for others' happiness. When you see others being happy and successful and rejoicing, you are happy for them. It's like the opposite of envy. It's like anti-envy, right? And upekha, or in Sanskrit upeksha, which is equanimity, which is just being okay with everything, like not wanting things or rejecting them, just being serene and calm. That's the last Brahma Vihara. And the Buddha teaches in at least one sutta that the way to become a Brahma is to cultivate these four attitudes. If you want to enter the Brahma world, you have to be like a Brahma, and you have to experience the world they do. And the way to do that is to cultivate these four things. Good. So we talked about all the words that are derived from Brahma. There's also a word, Brahman. Brahman is a word that you'll hear maybe occasionally in Hindu philosophy that's derived from the same root. Brahman is like an impersonal God, or it's like the ultimate reality, or like the ultimate principle of the universe. So if you think of Brahma as being like God with a capital G, like in Christianity, where he's like, he's loving beings trying to save them and whatnot, and the granddaddy of everybody. That's sort of what Brahma is in Hindu mythology, but Brahman is like the cosmic principle in Hinduism that like underpins all things, the ultimate reality that's permanent, indestructible, unchanging in all beings. Buddhism doesn't have this idea. It's not there because impermanence makes that kind of thing impossible. Okay, let's see. This is just a thing about, okay, I'm not going to worry too much about this terminology thing at the end of this page because it's very much splitting hairs. So let's talk about the state of beings in the Rupa Bhumi. Ovini, why don't you read the first paragraph on the next page on wait, hang on a second. Yeah, 607. Yeah.
Okay, sure. The word rupa means form and can be used in at least two senses. It can refer to physical form, example matter or the body, as in list of the 5 khanda, the aggregates which constitute the totality of a being body, consciousness, feeling, preparation, and mental formations.
Okay, yeah, so the 5 aggregates, which we've talked about before, and I'll keep reminding you again and again. Buddhism is a religion of lists. We have a ton of lists. So the 5 aggregates are your body, or rupa, your form, literally your form, the shape of you, right? Consciousness, that is the fact that you are awake and experiencing things. You're not just an automaton. Feeling, that is wanting things or wanting to get rid of things or not caring about things. Perception, that's like your ability to categorize objects, going like, that's a person, that's a dog, that's a fruit, that's a car. And mental formations are like thoughts or impulses, intentional impulses. Okay, good. All right, what else can it mean?
Okay, or it can mean visible form, or the object of eye consciousness. When it's When used to refer to this particular realm of being, either or both of these connotations apply. The being here belonged to a state of being called variously Rupadhatu, Rupabhava, Rupavakara, Rupaloka, or Rupabhumi. And the Rupa element is meant to contrast this realm not with the Kama Bhumi, but with the Ada Bhumi, because in the later there is no form in either sense of the word.
Okay. We get good. Wow, that one was the challenging one I just gave you. I'm just going through like in the order of people who joined. You randomly got this one. There's a lot of poly terminology in this one, a lot of big English words. So the five form can be form as in one of the five khandas, like your body. And really your body, when we're talking from a Buddhist perspective, this is just my commentary. Your body is the shape of you, so it can mean something you see. And I hear, especially in Chinese, when they talk about it, because of the way they translate the term rupa, they think of it a lot as a shape that you see. And that's true of your body, but that's not usually how you relate to your body. Like you don't actually see your own body. You can't, like, I mean, if you look straight ahead, you're not seeing your own body, but you still know that your body is there by touch. So it's this field of touch sensations that is the mark of that rupa, the form for you. You know you have a body because you can feel it. And feeling sensations, physical sensations, is your body. That's all you have that tells you have a body. You see others' bodies, and so either of these things can be considered form. The reason why we call this the Rupa Bhumi, or the form realm, the plane of form, the realm of form, is because the beings here have forms. Now that seems like a weird reason to distinguish a realm, because all the devas have forms, we have forms, dogs have forms, Niraya beings have forms. The key thing here is that there is another realm that doesn't have a form. And that's what this is here to do. It's to divide and distinguish the different Brahma realms from each other, not to distinguish them from us in the Kama Bhumi. So yeah, the first level that we're talking about today is that they do have forms. They have a shape. So there's like, you could, if you had the Dibbachaku, the divine eye, you could look at Brahma and see Brahma and like acknowledge that's Brahma's body, that's this Brahma's body, and you could talk to this Brahma and so on. It could interact with you. Okay. Let's look at the fine material. Let's see here. Seth, why don't you read the next paragraph? Rupaloka, Rupavachara, Rupatatu, Rupabhumi, etc.
Okay. The words Rupaloka, Rupavichara, Rupadhatu, or Rupabhumi are sometimes rendered into English as fine material realm. This is a loose translation meant to convey the idea that the material basis of this world is of a subtler nature than the matter, Rupa, known here on earth. Their bodies are said to be Manomaya, mind-made. They do not eat physical food, not even the subtle food of devas, but subsist on the bliss of jhana.
Great. Yeah. So they just meditate themselves into like subsistence. There are some cases reported of people who meditate very hard, like very stalwart monks and renunciants who don't have to eat very much. Like in the real, like in like the human realm we're experiencing now, like this waking life, there are reports of people like this, people who can fast for long periods of time, or can and so it seems that like practicing meditation reduces your need for food, which makes a lot of sense. It doesn't necessarily need to have a supernatural explanation. You're not moving very much, you're not thinking very much, you don't need that many calories. Like it's sensible, right? But at this level, it's an extreme, it's a very extreme outgrowth of this phenomenon where they don't need any food at all because the meditation itself sustains them. their bodies are said to be manomaya. I want to comment on this, that in a way, all forms are manomaya. All bodies are mind-made, in a sense, from the Buddhist perspective, because your body is a product of the actions you have taken in the past. And the actions you've taken in the past are your intentions, which are in your mind. So your mind kind of drives ultimately the kind of body that you will have. So really, there is a categorical distinction here between the mind-made bodies of Brahmas and our bodies, but they're a lot simpler and a lot they're less bound by their bodies and the demands of them. Almost all of our time is spent taking care of our bodies as humans. It's like our main concern, but not for them. Okay, where are we? Dilaka again. Why don't you read the next paragraph?
From the association.
Yeah.
The association of Brahma level beings with the jhana is central to the definition of their status. Jhana refers to a state of meditative absorption attained through the development of the samadhi, the non-wavering attention to an object. Development of meditation to the level of jhana is a prerequisite for rebirth into the Brahma world. Furthermore, the various levels with the Rupa Bhumi are mainly defined by the level of jhana to which they correspond.
Okay, great. And yeah, we're not going to go too much in depth about what qualifies as jhana, because that's a fiery debate. Some people argue that it's like, if you read the classical text like Visuddhimagga, it says it's so hard to attain jhana that only 1 in a million people can do it. And it's this supremely abstracted state of meditation where all objects dissolve and there's no experience of your body or your surroundings. So that's a very high standard for like what really is jhana. Other people, like in the Thai forest tradition, I think you would see a lot of the time, like Ajahn Chah and so on, that they don't have such a high bar for jhana, but they do think it's important. So some people say it's so high and like exalted a state of meditation that you got to take a shortcut. There's no point going that way. It's so hard that most people can't do it, so don't bother. That's kind of a Vipassana style approach. A lot of people who practice what's called Vipassana meditation hold this view. Others, like in the Thai forest tradition, argue that jhana is the only way to go, but it's not as hard as that. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's not as abstracted, and they set the bar much simpler. Like if you can experience, calm and pleasure and peace in meditation and keep your mind concentrated on the object for a sustained period, then that is the mark of the beginning of it. You've started to do it. It's not mastery yet, but you've achieved like the first stage. So and all views in between. I've heard all kinds of views all across the range. So the textbook doesn't get into what really qualifies as jhana, but in the mythology, whatever jhana is, it's the way to cultivating it leads to the Brahma worlds, and they practice this state a lot. Okay. Naomi, why don't you tell us about the inhabitants and their senses?
The inhabitants of the Rupa Bhumi are possessed of 2 physical senses only, those of sight and hearing. There are no unpleasant sights or sounds in the Brahma world, although they may encounter them if they turn their attention to the senses around. The Brahma beings are genderless. The male and female organs are not found there. They are said, however, to have the appearance of males. Birth is similar to that found in the Deva realms. It is apparitional, and the new Brahma simply appears, as if awakening from sleep.
Yeah. So this is the idea of the spontaneously born being. Sometimes, yeah, you'll hear this mentioned, the spontaneous beings, or beings that are spontaneously born. This refers usually to devas. There are other kinds of ways of being born in the kind of classic cosmology. You have like being born from an egg, being born from a womb. Some beings are said to be born from moisture, and that's kind of, I guess, like mosquitoes and whatnot. That classical Indian, people couldn't see their eggs, and they just seem to come out of wetlands, right? Or flies, that kind of thing. But these beings are not born in any of those ways. They just go pop and they appear someplace. And the Brahmas are like this. They just wake up. It's like the previous life, they pass away, and then they wake up and they're just in the Brahma world, and that's it. Yeah, this the appearance of males. This word here, it's really also could be translated as the appearance of persons or the appearance of people. It's a masculine word, but it's not clear that it's like necessarily that it's like human men, although that's suggested by the context probably is. But not probably super important. And I doubt, it seems like they probably don't care very much whether they look like human men or not.
I have a question. So when
Yeah.
they're born, do they have any memory of like anything else, or is it just they wake
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Typically, at least according to the commentarial tradition, typically devas and brahmas remember at least one previous life. They don't have like an infinite sense of like perspective. They can't go back infinitely and see all their previous lives. That's like a thing that only some completely enlightened beings can get. But they can remember who they were last time and whatnot. I asked the author about this one time of the textbook. And I said, so if you were a Brahma, right, if you're cultivating a virtuous life now, and you were born as a Brahma, and you remember who you were, couldn't you just do something like give, you're very powerful, right? Couldn't you just give a sign to people you knew? It'd be like, hey, yeah, Brahma worlds are real, and look, I'm in them now. Like, it would be a helpful thing to do, right? As to like bolster their belief or whatever. And I said, why do we not see signs of that? So if these Brahma beings are literally real, would they not just turn around and be like, hey guys, it's real, be nice, so that you experience a good rebirth? And he said that it's not really, he said that it's not really the case because the experience of time of the Brahmas is so different that by the time they would like turn around and think to like remind you, you've been dead like 100 times, and you would have no idea, you'd have no context for that interaction. So yeah, their lives are so unbelievably cosmically long, and their experience of like our lives are like flickering by like this all the time. So they don't even have time to snap their fingers before we're dead a bunch of times. So so there's nobody to talk to. you're already gone. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective. And we will get into their lifespan, I think, if we have time. Okay. Where were we? Ovindu? By definition.
Okay, sure. By definition, the beings of the Rupa Bhumi are possessed of form. Their appearance is nowhere described in a comprehensive detail, but there is a good reason to conclude that it is more or less anthropomorphic. It is said, for example, that even though they lack the senses of smell and taste, they are possessed of noses and tongues. Their bodies are said to be radiant and decorated with ornaments. The natural form of their bodies is too subtle to interact with beings on lower planes, so they must assume a gross body they wish to manifest to humans or devas.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. And this is where we could see them like interacting more with when they like, you have legends and myths about not just in Buddhism but anywhere else, of like, high gods appearing to people in human form, in disguise or whatever. This is how they would do that. Perhaps a good example, if you're kind of trying to frame legendary or mythological events in this context, a good example might be the entire Christian religion, right? Like if you view the God of Christianity, if you say, okay, let's assume this exists within a Buddhist context, what is that? It sounds like it's a Brahma, right? And this Brahma can take physical form and appear on earth, right? So there's no reason theoretically why, from the Buddhist perspective, like Christianity couldn't be like true, kind of, in a limited sense, and also all the other religions as well, because there are these higher beings who can interact with ones on the lower planes. This is a common trend in Indian religions in general, is that they don't try to negate the beliefs of one another, they try to subsume them. And you see Hindus doing this to Buddhists and Buddhists doing this to Hindus. So like, if you look at it in the Buddhist framework, all the Hindu beliefs fit in there, but they don't reach the ultimate truth. And Hinduism kind of the other way around. as well. They do some things like that where they try to argue that the Buddha was an avatar of like a Hindu god and things like that to try and subsume Buddhism within Hinduism, rather than just saying like the Buddha was full of baloney and it's not true. So this is a kind of a feature of Indian religions that you will see. Okay, and like the Devas, Ovini.
Yeah. Like the Devas, they dwell in Vimanas of surpassing beauty. The Brahmaloka itself is a level ground covered in jewels. It and the Vimana has no maker or creator, but arises through the forces of karma and natural process. One passage gives five characteristics of a Brahma. They are unencumbered with wife or wealth, without hatred, benevolent, pure, and powerful.
Okay, all right. Aparigaha is like, yeah, it's like they have no grasping at home, I guess, like the house or like home, this kind of thing. Without hatred and benevolence, so they love all beings, they genuinely do. They are pure and they're powerful. So they're not omnipotent, though, of course, because then if they're omnipotent, they could do things like change the rules. And if a benevolent being could change the rules of the world and its workings, suffering would disappear. There would be no suffering anymore for any being. But because that has not happened, we know that there is no benevolent, omnipotent being. This is what is called in religious studies the problem of evil. So the problem of evil is that there is evil in the world. We experience horrible things. People do bad things. There is suffering. And if there is a deity who knows all things, wishes well for all beings, and can do anything, then that experience of suffering and evil cannot exist. Like it doesn't make any sense, because the omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent being would know that people are suffering, want to change it, and be able to change it. So this is an argument against the existence of God with a capital G. And this is why we describe the Brahmas as being not omnipotent, just powerful. So they can't erase your bad actions from the past. They can't change your destiny. That's only in your own hands from the Buddhist perspective. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, I think we got through that. I don't know if we're going to get through the pre-Buddhist conceptions of Brahma today. Oh yeah, that's scheduled for next time. So I think we'll do that next time. And we're just about out of time now for this, and we'll take a little break. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Want to talk about Brahma beings a little bit more now, or any confusion in the text? Okay, in that case, we'll come back at 3:10, and then we'll do a short meditation. And then we can talk more about Brahmas or whatever questions you have then. All right, come back at 3:10.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everybody. Sound off when you get back.
Back.
Hi, we're back.
We're back.
Let's do a short 10-minute meditation, whatever your favorite theme is. And I suppose as we're doing it, one thing is people often teach the Brahma Viharas as independent, separate meditation practices. It's okay, you can do them as you can specifically just meditate on metta, on karuna, whichever the four you like, but you can also cultivate them while you're doing other practices as well. So whatever theme you're attending to, try to cultivate those attitudes of friendliness, goodwill, compassion, joy on behalf of others, and equanimity. And if you can maintain those attitudes as you do the practice, you will be cultivating the state of Brahma. So let's meditate until 3:22. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming today and working so hard, even when disasters are befalling some of us. And thank you for working on your projects. I'm going to review those when I get a moment. But yeah, let's have a chat, a discussion about anything you want. Maybe things about the project. If you had thoughts or comments or questions you want to share about your projects, or if you want to talk about Brahmas, or about your meditation practice, or about conduct in daily life, or anything. It doesn't have to just be questions. I get we ask a lot of questions, and I'm cool with that. But also, if you have like thoughts or insights that you want to share, or like perspectives, those are cool too. So just open floor.
So Mike, about the project, so for both me and my sister, we both did like presentations like on Google Slides.
Oh
So
yeah.
to submit that, would we have to like make a recording of ourselves doing the presentation, or could we just submit the slides?
I guess it probably depend on how self-explanatory the slides are. I saw that you sent that. Let me open it in the docs. Let me see. Oh, okay, very cool. Oh, I see. You have. Wait, am I looking at the right one? This looks right. Yeah, yeah. No, wait. That's Deepika's. Sorry. Okay.
I don't think I sent mine yet.
No. I'm looking at Deepika's. I was like, that looks pretty thorough, but okay. So, I mean, if you have some commentary and you want to make, like, you want to record it, if you feel like that adds, like, if it's not very self-explanatory, I think that would be absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be like a video. You could just, I don't know, record yourself talking over it, I think, and then send the 2 files. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Probably would get a better mark, a better grade than if you just submitted something that's like a few pictures with some notes. That's probably going to be a bare minimum, but yeah, so I would encourage you to do it. That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And yeah, and because we're going to post them, the hope is we're going to put them on the website, the temple website, if you guys are okay with it. So yeah, I think having some additional commentary there to put with it would be good, if you guys want. Of course, if you don't want the commentary to go on the site, that's fine. You could just let us know.
Mike, I just wanted to say, from the drawing I did, the project made me realize that I'm not very good at drawing. So take a look at it. You'll see it's not the best.
Oh, really? I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I just took a quick peek at it, but it looks good to me.
Yeah, that's just the colors.
I think it's good. It's got some I think I like the detail in the face and all that stuff. I think it's really good. I wouldn't stress about it too much. Like, obviously, like if you're not spending every moment drawing, it's all about practice, right? So yeah, it's a skill that you maybe haven't mastered, but I think I can tell you put in a lot of effort. So I think I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's good. I see there's also the details inside the little sections of the wheel. And then you've also kind of like written about it, like given your own commentary in here, and I like that. I like it. I think it's good. So don't sweat too much. I'm also not good at drawing. Although I did make an effort, I guess, at around Christmas time to like pick it up and try and practice a bit, but not made much improvement. Not made great strides. It's hard. It's hard. And it requires a lot of practice, like any skill. Are any of you avid artists? They like drawing on a regular basis, not just when teachers tell you to do projects? Do any of you just draw for fun? No? Okay. I'm seeing possible embarrassed laughter and shaking your heads and things. So I guess not. In my family, it's my sisters are the artists. Um, I'm not one. My brother definitely not. During the pandemic, we played a fair amount, like especially in the beginning when we couldn't even go outside really, of of a game. It was kind of like what do you call it? Is it Pictionary? It wasn't Pictionary. It's like a game that you would play remotely with your friends. But it was about drawing and making people guess what you're drawing. And yeah, I didn't win a lot.
Did it draw it? It was like a game, online game, right?
I think it was Drawful.
I think it was Scribble.io.
Yeah, Scribble.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Scribble. I've not tried that. No, we played Drawful, and it has a bunch of, I guess, sort of silly prompts, and you have to draw very quickly. And you only have like two colors, so it's very challenging. I was not good at drawing good things. I mean, the game is designed to make you have a hard time, but my sisters were always drawing very beautiful and very clear things, and I could never get it to work.
In our family, my brother and my mom and a little bit of me are the artists. My brother is very good at art, but he's very shy to present them. I don't know why, but he's just a shy person, and I'm like the chatty chatterbox in the house.
Oh, that's true in every family. There's always an introvert and an extrovert. My family's full of introverts, I think. It's mostly, people who just like to keep quiet and keep on their own. It was a very peaceful way to grow up, I guess, but it's also kind of challenging because you're not always there for each other. If you're not always sharing what's happening, you don't always know if someone's having a hard time and know if they need help. So it's the one's not necessarily better than the other. And yeah, the one thing that's interesting about the personality is I think maybe sometimes I think I've heard people say that, kind of critically reflect on their own personality. Okay, I think this happens maybe more in the West, but people will kind of feel that they don't have the personality traits that they should, like, oh, I have this such and such personality trait, but it's not the good one. I need to have the other one or something. And to a certain extent, I think that's not a problem. Like when you like on the journey of spiritual development and growth, we have to transform our character. We have to transform our personality and like our habits, but only to a certain extent, only the ones that are actually problematic. When we're finished the journey one day, becoming an enlightened being, you don't discard your personality. Your personality is not something that goes away, but rather you just kind of recognize that you're not in it. So as long as those traits that we have are not unwholesome, are not harmful to ourselves and to others, and are not rooted in ignorance, then those personality traits can still stay. So there are great number of examples of like arhats and things who had very different and distinct personalities from each other, and they didn't even necessarily agree on everything sometimes, in spite of the fact that they're equally awakened. We see cases like Ananda. Ananda was a fairly sociable person, I think, and he was a great patron of the nuns and things like that. He was very friendly toward the community of nuns. But we see other, if you look back at the historical arhats who were very ascetic, who would take all the Dhutanga practices and hide in the forests, and they didn't want anything to do with women to such an extent that they wouldn't even meet with the nun community. Like they wouldn't even go near it, and they didn't care for it. And there was disagreement between some of them about like how much they should engage, these communities should engage with each other. But it didn't mean that they didn't understand the truth. So some people are very reserved and some are outgoing, some are stern and some are friendly, but ultimately those things are not necessarily obstacles. So whatever your personality is, it's okay. Just play to your strengths, embrace it, don't worry about it. think I would point to the examples of like Ajahn Chah versus like maybe Mahasi Sayadaw. Mahasi Sayadaw was very straight-faced and very serious all the time, and didn't really have much of a sense of humor. But Ajahn Chah was quite a funny guy. He had a lot of dad jokes. There's one famous joke that I don't know if I've told you. Stop me if I've told you this story before. But there was one monk who's training under him, and he asked Ajahn Chah. He said, "Longpo, that's Thai, means like venerable father. It's like Handru." And he's like, "Longpo, what is stream entry? Tell me about stream entry. What is this?" And Ajahn Chah said, "Stream entry is fish sauce." And this monk was just baffled. He was like scratching his head, and he thought about this for a long time. It was actually for years. Like he never got any clarification from Ajahn Chah. He just kind of laughed and said, "Stream entry is fish sauce." And he was like, "What does he mean? Stream entry is fish sauce? Is this some kind of Zen koan? Like, is it a mind-breaking thing where if I could penetrate the truth of this enigmatic statement, I will achieve the final enlightenment?" So he wrestled with it. And there was another person, a layman, who came to the monastery once and asked Ajahn Chah the same question. What is stream entry? Like, what does it mean to be a stream enter? What is the stream entry? And Ajahn Chah said, "Stream entry is fish sauce." And the guy had the same reaction. What does he mean? It's like I'm talking to a brick wall. I don't understand. And he came away from the monastery scratching his head going, what is this guy talking about? And but of course, he being a layperson was not living the same routine in the monastery over and over again. So very shortly after, he went to a restaurant and he ordered a bowl of noodles, and they brought him the bowl of noodles and they brought him the sauce. And on the sauce, the brand was Sotapana, and that means stream entry. That means stream winner. So the brand of the sauce was stream winner. And of course, Ajahn Chah's joke was that is a brand of fish sauce. And the monk didn't get it because he was living in a monastery. It didn't have bottles of the sauce lying around. But that was kind of his sort of sense of humor. He would often evade these kind of questions and make jokes and if there was a topic that's particularly sensitive or that he didn't want to address, he would just use humor to dodge around it. Whereas some other people would just like maybe not respond, would just like not answer if they don't want to talk about it. They would just be silent and serious. But yeah, it's not like the one is better than the other. But anyway, I think that's a good story. It made me laugh when I first heard it.
Mike,
Mm-hmm.
When talking about like humor, I had a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Buddha ever make any jokes or like anything humorous at all throughout his years?
I think they're kind of, it may be hard to tell for a couple of reasons. One is that it's like, it could be that humor is lost in translation to a certain extent. And I think also and culture, right? Because it's a 2,500-year-old culture, it's gone, right? So we may not have the cultural context for whatever humor may have existed, and it might not have made it into the canonical texts. Like it might just not have been recorded if he did make a joke. There are a few places in the canon where it seems like we don't have tone of voice or anything like that. It's just we just have these passages, right? But it seems like there's a kind of dry humor going on in some places. Like when asked, I think it was King Bimbisara who asked, I might be wrong about that, but somebody asked the Buddha, what are the, so you're talking about getting free from the cycle of rebirth and everything. This is something that it is really about future lives, is like, avoiding suffering in future lives. But what's the benefit, like, in being a renunciant now? I mean, all you do is you miss out on all the good stuff and you just have to live a very dry existence. And the Buddha's gave a whole list of reasons why it's good here and now. But the first one was that imagine you're at a very low station in life. He's like, so you're some nobody, you're just a slave or just a regular old person. And as soon as you put on those robes, kings will run to you and like dump all kinds of gifts and blessings and things in front of you. So I think that's a kind of, and he's like, that's the first benefit, is that like, you just have to adopt the renunciant life and people immediately respect you. and they will come and give you anything you ever ask for, in spite of the fact that now you don't need it. So I think that is kind of that seems kind of funny, but it's hard to tell if it's like a dry, is it a dry humor? Is it just, I mean, it is a statement of fact. So maybe I'm just seeing the humor in it. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But there certainly aren't a lot of recorded, zingers in the Polycanon, and the format of the text just doesn't really convey. It doesn't like jokes usually have to be kind of, there's like a quick punch usually to them, like some immediate sudden revelation that you need to like be surprised. The humor is usually about surprise, like you don't expect something to happen and suddenly it turns around and but the structure of the Polycanon is really odd. It's like, because it's not a book, it's not a series of books even, it's like oral texts for recitation, like repeated passages, and these tend to be very repetitive and long and wordy, and kind of they tend to approach something in a very gradual, slow way, because it's ironically the easiest way to remember the context. So it may be that some of the humor gets like kind of watered down by the format of this kind of oral recitation. So yeah, so maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's hard to say, and it's unfortunately because we don't really have the original teachings of the Buddha, even though we talk about the Polycanon and so on as being an example of like something that's very close to the Buddha. It's really not that close. The Polycanon that we see in Theravada today was first written down about 400 or 500 years after the Buddha passed away, and it morphed a bit in that time, and it kind of took shape in that period. And the other early texts that we have preserved in Chinese are there's another kind of branch of the text that went north, and they're also very old. And they didn't kind of transform as much, but they maintain the same kind of format. So clearly there was just this oral tradition at that time, and nobody in India was writing anything for hundreds of years after the Buddha. So it's hard to say. And it's incredibly frustrating in the study of the history of India and Indian religions. I wish we knew more. Maybe one of you someday will become a great Buddhist scholar and uncover the more that we need to know, if you're inspired. But it's not really important, because we have the substance. I think we have the substance of the teachings, even if we don't have the exact words.
Thank you, Mike.
So that was very long-winded.
No, it's okay.
Mike, I have a quick question. It's about the bodies of the Brahmas. So in the text, it says that their bodies are manomaya, which are mind-made. Does that mean like how does that work? Like, how do they come into existence?
So I guess a good way of thinking about it is like samsara is like a dream, right? So in a dream, you have a body. Some people have different experiences of this. For me, when I'm dreaming, I have like all my normal physical senses. Like I can feel things. If I kind of put my hand against a wall, I can feel the wall. If I pick something up, I feel it. And if I stub my toe, I could feel the stub, right? Some people say otherwise, but there is also in the dream this kind of like mutability, this changeability of the body. It's not quite normal. It's flexible in ways that your normal body isn't. So if you would achieve a certain degree of lucidity, you could like push your finger through your hand, or you could like breathe in through your nose even if it's plugged, or like you can breathe underwater, and all these other kind of weird things. Or if you really achieve some mastery, you could like pass through walls or change the shape of your body, right? Or your appearance. And this is because that body is made of your mind. Like it's not your real body in the dream. It's a simulation that your mind has created. So the Brahma bodies, I think, are kind of like that, sort of like dream bodies.
Thank you. And also on the subject of that, if it's only mind-made, how do like other people see them if it's only your mind that makes it?
So this is kind of, I guess, a question of like collective experience. I guess first of all, other beings don't necessarily see Brahmas, right? I think they are bound by similar rules to devas. Like, we can't see them unless they show themselves. As I think we saw in the text, that in order to interact with the deva realm or the lower realms or humanity, they have to adopt a different form. Like they have to create a more coarse body. So I would say maybe we kind of can't see them normally. Unless you have some kind of strange supernatural power, you don't. But that said, to a certain extent, this idea of the body being mind-made applies to all bodies, and so it doesn't necessarily. It's not really a different rule. There's not like different rules for Brahma bodies and human bodies. It's not a question of mechanics. It's a question of like scale, I guess. So like the scale of our virtue and our refinement is much lower than being in the Brahma realm. So that has an impact on the way their bodies behave. But it's not like it's playing by different rules. It's a consequence of the current state of the mind. And so we say it's mind made, but I feel like this is just Mike's commentary, but I feel like that's maybe just there's not a hard category that's like mind-made bodies and not mind-made bodies. Like they are ultimately all mind-made. Yeah. So the reason, ultimately, it's the same reason that we can see each other, is because we are manifesting. Our actions are manifesting in having a body, and this body is visible to others because we inhabit the same universe, the same plane that follows. We have physical spectrum of physical light. We have eyes, and so on. And Brahma beings for the same reason.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people don't see these things. I think if you look at like reports of spiritual experiences of various like groups, not just Buddhists, people describe like being awash in like divine light, the sense of like the presence of another being who is powerful and benevolent, and these kind of things. We see these in like other religions, and that's, I think, usually the way that beings interact with higher realms, is a kind of abstract presence without concrete shape or features. And yeah, we have I think a good example is like the hesychasts of Greek Orthodox Christianity. They practice meditation. They practice their own kind of meditation, and the objective of this meditation is to enter a deep kind of samadhi, and in this samadhi they experience a kind of wash of blissful light. They lose all experience of their body and surroundings, and they only experience this kind of pure, blissful, compassionate light, and they believe that that is the essence of God. And so they're in the presence of, they're kind of fused with this light. And in the Buddhist context, that's a kind of state of meditation absorption. It's a meditation achievement. And that is approximating like the formless realms. And so they experience the formless realm directly in this life through meditation experience, and it leads toward those realms as well in future births. But the way that they experience them is as a kind of like abstract, an abstraction, rather than like directly perceiving shapes of beings and so
on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If you're interested in reading more about those kind of meditation, those states, or states that are similar within the Buddhist context, you could read the works of Ajahn Mahabua. He talks about them a fair bit. Mahabua, spelled like this. He talks about them a lot because he and his teacher emphasize that those kind of practices are a helpful foundation for achieving enlightenment. Not that they were enlightenment; they didn't argue that that kind of state was achieving enlightenment, but they felt and they argued that you should cultivate those as a basis before you proceed further, which is a very high bar. I think most people never experience those kinds of things in their life. But he writes about what those states are and how to achieve them in some of his books. So if you're interested in them or just curious, that's a good place to look. Any other questions or comments about the Brahmas or your meditation practice? Observations about them, parallels to, I think there are a lot of parallels between the Brahmas and sort of the Abrahamic ideas of God. I think that there's I would say that kind of if you look at the Deva realms that we examined earlier, they have a strong resemblance to kind of pre-Islamic, pre-Christian, pagan religions and their ideas of deities, where they're powerful and happy or strong, but not omniscient or omnipotent. This sort of extension of this idea of like nature spirits and this kind of thing. And that's very similar to devas in the Buddhist cosmology. But when you look at like Abrahamic deities, they are, this conception of God is very similar to Brahma in that they believe that this creature believes that it is the original being that created everybody else. And it's kind of full of itself, but it's also compassionate and very powerful. And generally quite virtuous. That's an important thing. Like the devas will squabble with the asuras and they like fight and they still experience sense pleasure and so on. Whereas the Brahmas are concerned with, I guess, loftier things and purer occupations. So in this sense, it's kind of and this is why it's a different category of thing, and why in Buddhism and Indian religion in general, there are different words for what in English we only have one word for thing. We have God. And then there's debate about like whether there is a God or no God or many gods or one God, or all these debates take place. But the vocabulary of Buddhism and other Indian religions is a little bit more nuanced. And there's more vocabulary to discuss these things. And I think that makes a big difference because like when people will ask, is there questions like, is there a God in Buddhism? Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by that, right? And as we've discussed this time, like in a way, we believe that there are many, many gods, but at the same time, we believe there's no God because we don't believe in a creator being who originated, who spun the universe up out of their own desire and who directs all things. We don't believe in that. But we believe that there are beings who believe that they're doing that. So they kind of fall into this capital G God category, maybe. And I think that's very interesting. So yeah, having this vocabulary and looking at these things from these different angles, I think can help us to better understand people from other religions and present ourselves when we're asked about them and to maybe clarify our own beliefs and positions. We can ask ourselves these questions. Do I believe in these things? How do I believe in these things? If I'm asked these questions by philosophers or acquaintances or people from other religions, what is the classical stance of Buddhism? What is my own position? Do I believe that some of these things exist and not others, and so on? Having the vocabulary and understanding will be helpful, I think, in the long run. Okay, and I see that the junior class is back and Bhante Chanima has returned. So why don't we wrap up here? I think I see everybody's assignments now. There's Ovini. This looks like Ovindu, yep. And Dilika, Naomi. Oh, do I have Seth?
Seth has sent the presentation too, right?
I sent it to the
Temple, huh? Okay, let me send it to Mike.
Okay, yeah, you forward it to me. That's good.
Let's see.
Okie doke. In that case, I think probably good to wrap up the session.
Sure. When is our next date? It's gonna be May 9th.
Yes, May 9th. And we will be discussing a bit more like the history of the idea of Brahmas and the way that one can attain the state of a Brahma.
Mm-hmm. Mike, I wanted to ask from our children about the Vesak precept program too, because next day is 9th and then 22nd is the adult Vesak Sil day here. I mean, like 2 hours and 45 minutes we do, not like the day long thing. Probably we can do, because when you do 9, then the next day will be the 23rd. I don't want to miss your class, right? So, children, will you be okay to spend probably 2 hours on 22nd? You have the Dhamma school on 23rd too, but are you okay with that? Because that's the day, the morning, we have the SIL program for the adults, so don't worry about it. Probably from 2 to 4, probably 2 to 3:30 or something. I don't know. Are you okay with that?
I don't
Dilaka?
really,
Naomi, yeah.
I don't really understand the question.
There's
Not a
a
question.
there's
Vesak Sil Day, 8 precept program for the children. So we
it's the
normally
day
do that.
before. Yeah, it's the day before our next before the not the next one, but the one after. So a month from now, the 2nd May Sunday school. The Saturday before that, there's another thing happening. So I think Pandit just wants to make sure that you're okay.
I'm looking at 22, May 22. That's a Saturday. Afternoon, probably 2 to 4. For the Vesak Sil program for the children.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you would be presumably attending that, and then the next day attending.
Yeah,
the
next
Sunday
day the Dhamma
thing.
schools. I'm asking how is
If
your
that's okay, the 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably have to see later, like.
Okay. No problem.
Hamza, I'm pretty sure that's okay. We'll probably be participating for season.
Yeah. For now, I know that you are going through different things these days, so it's okay. I'm not saying you have to come mandatory. There are marks given in addition to the assignment. No, it's not like that. Okay. So because we had to do the, as a regular thing. Dilaka?
Yeah, Hamza should be good to come to.
Okay. We'll think about it. Yeah, we'll do the Chatamana Gata. Yeah. Would you mind writing? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Please stay safe.
Yeah, we hope everybody is, all your difficulties go away.
Yes.
And we'll see you again on May 9th.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Hamdur. Budong ke saath
Thank you,
mein.
Mike. Thank you, Hondur.
Okay. Take care. Terusan.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hamdurni.
Hello, Delon. Okay.
Okay.
They're from your hometown, Nova Scotia.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's right. I remember. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you again also in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.